Sure, yeah. My name's Sam Zises. I'm the founder and CEO of Wendr.
I'm Kaye, Chief Engineer and Co-founder.
And so Wendr is a social planning application that makes it easy to find out what your friends are doing tonight and access nighttime events and activities. We're really about making the experience of finding your night as convenient as possible, both from seeing what your friends are up to seeing what other sort of opportunities are available from, whether it be local vendors, merchants, or a national movie chain. That's a great question. I mean, any startup founder or entrepreneur goes through sort of a lot of different hurdles throughout the experience. Both Nick and I come from sort of an agency marketing type background. Nick more on the creative and engineering side, myself more on the business development and strategy. But I'd say just, being part of a startup, you really have to do every single piece of the business. Whether you're, bootstrapped 2 people or even, a small crew of 10 or 12 people. So that includes things like managing your accounting, dealing with legal, making sure that all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. So I'd say in terms of hurdles, it's really just understanding and being able to play a lot of different roles at the same time. I'd say for Nick, probably who actually runs our creative and development, I'll let him speak for himself, but wearing 2 hats probably.
Yeah, although I also feel our skill sets complement each other very, very well, and I feel like the luckiest engineer in the world, frankly. I set about with the goal after years in New York doing freelance work, working at different agencies, wanted to just dedicate a year to building one thing and building something that I wanted to last and building it right. And that's an opportunity that I did not have in agencies building websites, building these products. And I know Sam felt very, very similarly. And the opportunity from a business standpoint to be able to pay your rent, just to be able to take that much time and put that much energy into one thing, is an incredibly rare opportunity.
That's a great question. I mean, any entrepreneur starting a company has, as you mentioned, a lot of different hurdles. But in terms of tripping us up, I think, you need to put the right pieces of the puzzle together. And I think the hardest thing in any company or business is managing people and having access to really good quality people that share your vision and believe in your goals, and also have the know-how to be able to execute your vision, right? Because at the end of the day, you're only as good as sort of the people that you work with, especially in a business like ours. So in terms of tripping us up, I mean, we've been through a number of different war stories, as I'm sure many of your viewers or, other entrepreneurs have, whether it's, hiring a developer that, doesn't have the passion or the drive that you do, and they're not willing to put in that extra time to make sure that something is really as buttoned up as it should be, or just, keeping everybody on track. When you're a bootstrap startup, you really want to get as much out of everybody as possible, but not everybody's incentives are always aligned. But I think that we've actually managed to do a great job in that because we've surrounded ourselves with great talent, and our visions have always been centered around this one concept of really making a product that allows users to be able to fully take advantage of our utility and our tools to help them find their night. And as I mentioned, really, just making a convenient product that has sort of a North Star and really focuses on one thing is key. A lot of the times, people get distracted and, there's opportunities to pivot one way or another, but I think staying true to what your initial, guidelines are and what your initial plan is key. It's very easy to get to get off track.
Yeah, and one thing I'll chip into that is that I believe you cannot ask too many times, you cannot take too many opportunities to stop and ask everyone in the room what are the problems we're trying to solve. Because it's very easy to actually find yourself up against a hurdle that isn't necessarily the next step that you ought to take anyway.
Being efficient with your time, when your time is really what you have, is key. So I think we've done a good job not tripping too much, but certainly it's part of any sort of startup or entrepreneurial role. That's a really good question. Today more so than ever, there's just a plethora of different technologies, web applications, tools that claim to manage every aspect of your business. And you realize that you really need to have a balance between using all these sorts of tools that say that they'll, manage your entire project management and, you know, pay all your bills for you. You really need to find a good balance between what's sort of overkill and what takes up too much time setting up these programs and applications. Nick and I actually have the sort of ability to have, we've already used a lot of these tools for our clients in sort of previous jobs, so we've been able to vet these programs and applications. So in terms of what tools have been the most useful, I'd say, you know, without calling any specifically out by name, you know, Nick probably has a whole host of them on the web development stuff side, you know, and I definitely have some on sort of the business end. But, you know, we find these tools and we use them to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I mean, just from an engineering standpoint, I'd add that some of the best resources that we've come across are just opportunities to buy something instead of building it, and that we live in this world now where there's just these incredible emerging opportunities to not reinvent the wheel and just go out there and again, what are the problems we're trying to solve? Who's out there solving these same problems?
For sure, yeah. I mean, just as Nick mentioned, I mean, you know, to some extent, a lot of ideas have already been created, and you know, we don't necessarily need to rebuild a tool that already exists. So we try to find the best-in-class partner or application or tool and leverage it to be able to save time and save money in the end.
Big data.
Big data, he says. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for me, having been sort of in the branded content and social media world, having spent 3 years doing business development at Big Fuel, a social media agency, and then most recently spending the last year at Ogilvy and Mather, I think, you know, I've been able to see sort of social media evolve in a big way, right? I mean, just even in 2006, 2007 were the early days of when Facebook opened up as a channel for brands, and even YouTube as a whole new channel, which, you know, now is considered the largest single channel in terms of, you know, video content. So I think sort of Web 2.0 was social, you know, and all about being able to share content with people. And in terms of, you know, big data, I very heavily believe that the next version, you know, Web 3.0, if you will, is really taking all of the data and information that's now been thrown into the internet and put online and making it smarter. You know, I'm a big fan of the IBM Smarter Planet campaign, because they're all about leveraging data for making smarter decisions, actually taking action on all this information.
That's a really, yeah, that is a really good point. That I think that the abyss that we're at right now, in a sense, is that you look at all these apps that are out here at South by Southwest, and essentially it has to leap down from the App Store onto your phone and then blow your mind at the push of a button. and so, yeah, there's a lot of data out there, but how do you bring this in? And also, are you simply bringing in data from other places, or are you actually giving meaningful insight that's unique to the value you're providing for your users?
Yeah, and we're actually in a pretty unique place because Wendr is a social planning app, and you know, we haven't yet integrated specific location services like places, because it's all about sort of being able to say that you're going to do something tonight, right? You don't necessarily need to say I'm going to this bar at this time. You know, not every single place in the world is in, you know, a places network, but you know, we do want to leverage those technologies because there's a lot of value around those networks that have all of this big data, as Nick mentioned, that is tied to existing places. So it's really being able to manage all of the opportunities and technologies that are out there, and now we're going to need to really focus on what is the most value we can add to our users, you know, immediately, if you will. Inspiration. Well, I think, you know, speaking for Nick and myself, you know, we're both extremely motivated people. What gets us to, you know, get up in the morning is the ability to create and the ability to make something. You know, both of us, again, have worked sort of on the, you know, development agency side, and now being able to create our own product that we have, you know, a vision for, and that, you know, every single move we make actually affects the product and our users. And so in terms of inspiration, you know, I could say for me, it's just the concept of creation and making something from scratch, an idea that we had, you know, a year or so back, and actually bringing it to the world.
Yeah, I can agree more. I'm doing the same thing I was doing 20 years ago on the floor with Legos and taking apart broken computers, but the opportunity to, or the, you know, the ability to do it in a way that's actually going to have lasting impact and not just get thrown out with each new client.
My dad. My dad inspires me. I mean, I think everybody has different people in their lives that, they look up to in different ways. I think just, the concept of hard work, that no matter what, just get up and do it. He's always reminded me of the Nike slogan, "Just do it," which is one of my favorites. And it's really just, for me, it's the concept of, whatever you have to do, whatever hardships you have to go through, if you get up in the morning and, you put your clothes on and you put your best foot forward, a lot of things can be accomplished. And it's not necessarily just over the course of one day or 1 week, but, he always says, chop wood every day, and at the end of the year, you'll have some left over to keep you warm.
That's great. Yeah, and I would also say that my father's inspired me in my life, and I don't think he would mind me pointing specifically to his father, who is a scientist, and sort of brought me onto some things when I was a lot younger that have taken a long time to come full circle. But he's sort of sitting on my shoulder in a lot of moments.
But sure, and specifically, I mean, we look up to sort of, industry celebs, if you will, everybody from Dennis Crowley to Larry and Sergey and whatnot, obviously, with all of the, entrepreneurs that are walking around South by Southwest, as much as we're actually, we've launched a product and we've, created a significant amount of buzz and things are going great, at the end of the day, we've started a really cool company, but for us to actually really look at ourselves as a business, we've got to create real monetary value on behalf of, all of our partners. So we still have a little bit of an uphill battle, but we're excited about what's to come.